If you've ever been in a fight, you know that one of the greatest secrets of fighting is that you probably won't feel any immediate pain. Professional fighters will tell you that they feel violent impacts and concussions, but don't immediately feel pain. Humans are designed to be able to take the hit, keep moving, and deal with the consequences later. End quote. That principle is exactly why I tell my clients and horse people in general, do not push through pain. Pain is a signal to your body that something is wrong, something is not moving correctly, something is out of alignment. Listen to that. So something that I try really, really hard to teach my clients is how to listen to what their body is telling them, how to feel what's going on in your own body. Because one, for performance, when you go to ride, if you can't feel what's going on in your own body, how are you going to feel what's going on in your horse's body? If you can feel what's going on in your own body, you can control it. If you can feel what's going on in your horse's body, you can control it. You can't control it without feeling it. Welcome to Elevate Your Ride, the podcast dedicated to elevating your performance in the saddle. I'm Ellie, your personal trainer.
And I'm Lauren, your mindset coach.
Okay, today we are on our third episode of becoming a supple leopard. So thank you guys for following along in this series. It's been a lot of fun. Again, if you want to purchase the book and follow along, please feel free to do so. We will leave the link to do that in the description of this episode. So the topic of today's episode is mainly going to be about signs that you have been moving incorrectly. So I'm going to dive right into a really long section of the book. How do you know that you have some sort of musculoskeletal problem? More specifically, how do you know when your body is not operating at its full potential? The average athlete typically uses cues like pain, swelling, loss of range of motion, decreased force, or numbing and tingling. The conversation with yourself begins something like this. When I run lately, my knee hurts. I wonder what's wrong with my knee. Though typical, there are many errors in this line of thought. The first is that pain and other symptoms of injury are lagging indicators. For example, swelling might indicate tissue overuse or strain from poor mechanics, but swelling is an after-the-fact sign. The tissue damage has already occurred. It's helpful to have a diagnostic tool that can highlight dysfunction and let you know that something is wrong, but only if it's applicable before the fact. Imagine if you had to wait for your car's engine to blow up to know when you should add oil, or if a soldier had to wait for his weapon to jam in the middle of a firefight to know when to perform some preventative maintenance. That would be ridiculous, right? But in general terms, this is how modern sports medicine operates. We wait until something is broken, sometimes horribly so, before we expect a physician or physiotherapist to fix it. This paradigm keeps orthopedic surgeons very busy. You can imagine what the doctor thinks when you come into his or her office with a hole in your kneecap from years of poor movement practices and overly tight tissues. Seriously? That bone in your knee was designed to last 110 years, and you managed to wear a hole in it in 20. True story. Imagine waiting until you are suffering from unrelenting back pain and having your leg go numb to find out that you used poor spinal mechanics to carry a 100-pound pack as a young Marine. Also a true story. Like a light switch that's designed to last for tens of thousands of on and off cycles, our bodies are set up for millions of movement cycles. Millions. But every time you squat, bend over, or walk in a compromised position, you burn through those cycles at an accelerated rate. So by the time you've worn a hole in your kneecap, herniated a disc, or torn your labrum, chances are good that you've gone through millions of poor movement cycles. In other words, your tissues and joints didn't just wear out. Your body put up with your bad positions and movements for millions of cycles. Everyone is different. Genetics, training, volume, and other lifestyle factors have a profound impact. But if you learn to move in a way that the body is designed to move, you will put less stress on your system, reducing the number of cycles you burn through. All right, I'm going to pause the quote from the book. So, this is why it is so important to correct movement patterns and to do what's called corrective exercise. So, corrective exercise is what you do when you have a muscle imbalance or when one part of the body is stronger than the other or weaker than the other. So, you have an unbalanced pull. So, I want you to look at your arm and I want you to look from your shoulder to your elbow. On the inside or the front of your arm is your bicep muscle. On the back side or the outside, that's the tricep muscle, okay? So you have the bicep on one side and the tricep on the other. Both of these muscles pull on your elbow joint and on your shoulder joint. Now, I want you to pretend that these two muscles are a long rubber band, okay? And one end of the rubber band connects to the shoulder, the other rubber band connects to the elbow, okay? Now, I want you to pretend that that rubber band is tighter on one side than the other. Let's say that it's tighter on the bicep muscle side, okay? So you can imagine that if it's tighter on the bicep muscle, it's going to pull on the interior point of the shoulder and of the elbow joint. You're already going to have more strain on those two joints just by that bicep muscle being a little tighter than the tricep muscle. This is why it's so important to build a strength and conditioning program that conditions and strengthens your body equally. That's why when you train your upper body, you have to hit all the areas. You have to do your chest, you have to do your back, you have to do your biceps, you have to do your triceps, you have to do your shoulders, you have to do the abs, right? Like you have to look at the body as a whole and hit all those main muscle groups. You can't just hit biceps and shoulders or just triceps and chest or just back. Like you have to make sure that you're strengthening your entire body evenly. You have to make sure that you're training your body evenly. So another common thing is a lot of girls typically will try to strengthen their glutes too much because everybody wants that booty, right? So they'll overtrain the glutes and they'll get the glutes to be too strong or too tight. And then you'll have weak quads or weak hips, and then you create muscle imbalances, and that's what causes injuries. Chronic injuries and overuse injuries happen typically because your body is not set up evenly. So, for example, if somebody comes to me with a chronic issue like their knee bothers them or something like that, a lot of times it's not actually the knee that's the problem. Maybe they have learned to walk with weak glute muscles. So their hips are kind of always pulled in an awkward way because their glute muscles are underdeveloped. They're weak. They're not doing their job. So then what happens is that does not provide strong alignment for your knee. When there's misalignment in the body, when the body is not strong enough to maintain alignment, and you go to do something like step out of a horse trailer, that's what can cause that random injury that it's like, oh, but I just stepped out of a horse trailer. Why did that bother my knee so much? Like, that's just an everyday thing. Well, it's because it came from years of underdeveloped glutes. So when a client comes to me and I see that they have an improper movement, like maybe they have a rounded forward posture, or maybe they have weak abs or weak glutes, but they come to me and they say, well, I really just want to work on getting my heels down. I'm going to say, okay, that's great, but we have to correct these other issues first before we can worry about your heels because I'm all about injury prevention. Yeah, you could come to me and I could say, okay, you want to work on your heels and let's ignore all these other issues, but that's not setting you and your body up for success. So that's one of the benefits of working with a coach, like a personal trainer or a physical therapist, is they're going to look at your body as a whole and make sure that you're not just strengthening the areas that you perceive as being weak. You get strengthened on all the areas that you need to be able to perform daily tasks without pain and without injury. Horseback riding and showing is inherently not all that great on our joints. The concussion of riding a horse puts a lot of pressure on your spine and on other joints. And talk about the fact that, it's also an accident prone sport. We get bucked off, we get stepped on, we get ran over, we have to climb on tall things, and sometimes we fall off, right? Like that is part of the sport. That's what we signed up for. So you want to make sure that you're setting your body up for success as much as possible. That way, if and when you do get injured, one, hopefully it's not as severe because your body is strong and strong evenly throughout your entire body, right? There's not some parts that are stronger or weaker than the other. You want to train and build as even of strength as possible. But also, that way, when and if you do get injured, hopefully it's not as severe and your recovery is just so much easier because you already have that strength built up. All right, I'm going to go back to the book. The second issue is that the human animal is set up for survival. Your central nervous system controls the flow of sensory and mechanical information for your entire body. It's not an accident that the pain and movement pathways in the brain system are one and the same. If you bang your finger, the first thing you do is start moving it around. Why? You can't hear the pain signal along with movement signal. This elegant system keeps people moving and surviving because it literally regulates those pesky pain signals to background noise, which is why you can't hear until you stop moving. Put another way, movement, or sensory input, overrides the pain signal so that you can continue exercising and training. No wonder your shoulder starts to throb when you lay down to go to sleep. Your brain is no longer receiving any movement signal input. All it is getting now is full-blown pain. Now imagine training like an athlete your whole life, spending countless hours ignoring the pain signals that your body is sending you while you train and compete. There is little chance that you can actually hear the pain of tissue injury and failure amid all that movement and other pain noise. Pain doesn't work during periods of high movement load and peak output. Add stress to the equation, and it's a recipe for disaster. If you've ever been in a fight, you know that one of the greatest secrets of fighting is that you probably won't feel any immediate pain. Professional fighters will tell you that they feel violent impacts and concussions, but don't immediately feel pain. Humans are designed to be able to take the hit, keep moving, and deal with the consequences later. End quote. That principle is exactly why I tell my clients and horse people in general, do not push through pain. Pain is a signal to your body that something is wrong, something is not moving correctly, something is out of alignment. Listen to that. So something that I try really, really hard to teach my clients is how to listen to what their body is telling them, how to feel what's going on in your own body. Because one, for performance, when you go to ride, if you can't feel what's going on in your own body, how are you going to feel what's going on in your horse's body? If you can feel what's going on in your own body, you can control it. If you can feel what's going on in your horse's body, you can control it. You can't control it without feeling it. So that's why I always say to people that I'm so different than other forms of traditional personal training, because I really try to teach people how to feel what's going on. Traditional strength training, typically you're just trying to build as much strength as possible, and it maybe doesn't matter quite as much if you're feeling what's going on, right? Because it just doesn't matter if you're not an athlete quite as much. It still matters, but that piece kind of gets pushed to the side, and the focus of building an aesthetically pleasing body is kind of what is the highest priority, right? Or just straight up building strength. So I try to focus on, okay, when you're doing a bicep curl, can you feel the bicep muscle lifting the weight up, but can you also feel the tricep muscle pushing that weight back down? So pretend like you're going to do a bicep curl. Bend your elbow, lift your wrist up to your shoulder. You'll feel the contraction of the bicep muscle. And what a lot of people do wrong is then they just let the weight go at the top and they just let it fall down where they start. They're not feeling the push at the tricep muscle. Okay. So start from the beginning, lift up into the bicep curl, feel that bicep muscle. Okay. Now don't just let your weight go. Use your tricep, the back of the arm, to push that weight back down. That is one way that I teach people how to feel things. Don't just feel the muscle contraction on the way up of a rep, feel it on the way down as well. That's called the eccentric part of the motion. So in every motion, you have 3 different sections. You have the concentric, which for a bicep curl would be the bicep muscle lifting that weight up, okay? And then you have the isometric. That's the top of the rep. That's where there's no movement involved at all. It's just kind of static. And then the eccentric is on the way back down. That's that tricep muscle, or what's called the antagonist muscle, pushing that weight back down. Okay. So That is one way that I teach people how to feel things. If you can learn how to feel what's going on in your body during exercise, it will make it a lot easier to feel pain. Because when you come to your next workout, if I've done a good job of teaching you how to feel your muscles, how to feel the joints, how to feel alignment, how to feel stabilization, that's another reason why I don't always recommend training in front of a mirror or why I don't show a lot of my clients their exercises. I want them to have to figure it out. I want them to have to feel it in their own body. I want them to be able to listen to my words and apply it in their own body. That's how I teach people to feel things, how I teach people to be aware of what's going on in their body. If you're always just watching it in a mirror, you don't necessarily learn how to do it in your own body. Or if you're only ever watching me and learning how to do new exercises by watching me, then you don't learn it as well. So if you're one of my clients and you're listening to this and you're like, why doesn't she ever just get out the ground and show it to me? Well, sometimes I will if I think it's necessary, but most of the time I want you to figure it out. You're going to get more out of it that way, I promise. Hi everyone, it's your personal trainer Ellie. If you're looking to become a stronger, more balanced, and flexible rider, I'm here to help. I offer virtual personal training sessions and customized workout plans that you can complete on your own. As a fellow competitor, I understand the physical demands riding requires, and my goal is to help you perform your best for your horse, whether you're preparing for a show or just want to improve your everyday rides. Visit lopindowntherailfitness.com or click on my website tab in the notes of this podcast episode to learn more. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
Are you looking for that extra competitive edge, struggling with show pin anxiety, or looking to set and achieve meaningful goals with your horse? Schedule a session with me, Lauren, your dedicated mindset coach. As an experienced competitor, I understand the mental demands required to excel at the highest level, and am here to support you in building a plan to help you stay accountable and reaching those goals. For more information, check out laurencervelli.com or click on the website link in our show notes. Let's work together to elevate your ride.
But back to what I was talking about with pain. If you push through pain, if you push past those signals, sometimes you have to, right? Like sometimes it's show day, you've got to push through that. And that's okay. There's a time to push, but there's also a time to back off. 90% of the time, you don't want to be pushing through any pain. Okay. Because when you're pushing through pain, you're going to cause damage. You're going to cause more issues down the road. So I tell people to push through discomfort. There's a difference between discomfort and pain. Discomfort is like a bicep curl. Let's say that I give you a 5-pound dumbbell and I put it in your hand and I ask you to do a bicep curl. Okay. Even if you haven't really lifted weights before, that's going to be fairly easy for you to do. Naturally, throughout life, you should have enough strength to bicep curl a 5-pound dumbbell at least a couple times. Okay. Now, let me set that 5-pound down and give you a 10-pound dumbbell. Okay. Again, that should be fairly manageable for most people to do, a 10-pound dumbbell, at least for a couple reps, okay? Now, let me give you a 15-pound dumbbell, okay? If you haven't been consistently strength training or you're not naturally very strong, that 15-pound dumbbell is gonna put a little bit more strain on you. It's gonna put a little bit more strain on the elbow joint, on the shoulder joint, because if that bicep muscle is not strong enough to stabilize that weight, then your joints are going to have to engage and your joints are going to have to pick up that stabilization. Okay. Now I set that 15-pound dumbbell. Now I give you a 20. Okay. 20 is a lot for most people to bicep curl. Okay. People who have been strength training for years can do it. I can bicep curl a 20 pound. I don't love doing it. It's not a good weight for me to do, but I can do it. Okay. Now I'm going to set the 20 down. Now I'm going to give you a 25. Okay. So now that weight of the dumbbell is really straining your tissues, really straining your joints because most people are not strong enough to bicep curl that heavy of a weight. Some people are, most people aren't. Okay. Now I'm going to set that weight down. Now I'm going to give you a heavier weight. Now I'm going to give you a 30. I don't know very many people who can bicep curl a 30 other than like the super strong gym bros, right? Like a 30 would be really, really tough for me to just do a bicep curl, especially with good form. Okay, now I'm going to give you a 35. Okay, 35. Oh my gosh, like Anything north of 35 is just gonna be too straight up too much. It's gonna put too much pressure on you, okay? So, there's a difference in the feeling of discomfort for a 5, 10, or a 15-pound dumbbell versus a 20, 25, 30, 35 plus. Think about the difference of that. A 5, 10, or a 15, that's uncomfortable, but it's probably not painful. It's probably just difficult, right? You wanna push through difficult. You wanna push through discomfort. You don't wanna push through pain, because then you're going to start tearing things. You're going to start straining things. That's what we're trying to avoid. If when you set that weight back down and the discomfort immediately goes away, then that's just discomfort. But if it kind of stays with you and it's uncomfortable even after you set that weight down, that's probably more pain. So that can be a little bit challenging for people to distinguish the difference between the two. But I think that that's a good example of discomfort versus pain. All right, back to the book. When you start to lose position and compromise your tissues, like rounding your back during a deadlift, you may not feel it at the time, especially if you're under competition stress. However, just as a fighter feels the abuse from combat after the adrenaline is worn off, your back will scream in pain when you cool down from a workout in which you did 20 improperly executed deadlifts. Just as you could say that the more skilled fighter usually suffers less damage and as a result doesn't feel as much, if any, pain after the battle, the better you are at deadlifting, the less likely you are to tweak your back. The third and most notable problem with our current thinking is that it continues to be based on a model that prioritizes task completion above everything else. It's sort of 1 or 0, task done or not, weight lifted or not, distance swum or not mentality. This is like saying, I deadlifted 500 pounds, but I herniated a disc. Or I finished a marathon, but I wore a hole in my knee. Imagine this sort of ethic spilling over into other aspects of your life. Hey, I made you some toast, but I burned the whole house down. Hang out at the end of any local marathon and you'll notice a significant number of finishers who are obviously suffering. They look as if they've been hit by cars and stricken by disease. Yes, you say, but they finished. And this is true. Being obsessed with task completion certainly has its place, like in the Olympic finals, a world championship, or a military mission. But even then, there may be a heavy price to pay. Couple this task priority blindness with an overly simplified system of pain indicators, and it's easy to understand how athletes can dig themselves into some pretty deep holes. All right, so this idea of task completion, ignoring everything that your body is saying to you in order to finish a task, has its place in the horse world. When you've been at a horse show for 2 weeks and you're exhausted and you're a little sore, but that trailer has to get loaded because those horses have to get home, what are you going to do? You going to go lay down in your hotel room? You're not going to load the trailer? No, you're going to load the horse trailer. What about when you've been lunging your horse for 30 minutes and it's still zipping around you, but you're tired and you have some pain? Are you going to go put your horse away? Or are you going to finish lunging your horse? Because you know your horse needs it, because you know that you've got a class later that day, that you know they're maybe going to be a little spooky in the corner if you don't finish lunging them. Are you going to finish lunging them or are you going to put them away? You're probably going to finish lunging the horse, right? It's the finals of the world show and your ankle's really been bothering you. Like maybe your horse stepped on your ankle and you're wondering if it's maybe fractured or something's wrong with it. Are you going to give up? Are you going to go home? Or are you going to saddle up? Probably going to saddle up, right? Like there's a time and a place for task completion, right? Like that's just life. That's reality. It would be unrealistic for me to look at a horse person and say, you know what, we're just going to give up. We're just not going to complete the task that's ahead of us. No, we're going to complete it. Sometimes there is a time and a place to compromise our bodies in order to complete a task. We just want to minimize how often we're doing that. Okay, so if that same ankle situation applies at a local show, or maybe it's not that big of a deal, maybe you don't push through that, right? Like there's a time and a place. Task completion is good in some ways because it keeps us in line with our goals. It's how we get places. But if you become blind to the task completion and you complete any task, every task, any day of the week, just because you said you were going to do it, that's how you're going to get chronic issues in multiple places, right? Like, all right, I'm going to use poor Lauren as a little bit of an example. Lauren gets a little task completion blindness, right? She will push through injury. She will push through pain. She will push through things with a smile on her face, and you'll never know that she's in pain. Okay. That serves her sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't, right? Like if you're a subscriber and you've been listening to our episodes, you know that Lauren and I kind of had to take a 6 month like injury prevention time where we kind of had to back off her workouts. We had not been using a whole lot of weight the last couple weeks because she broke her toe or she hurt her back or she hurt her shoulder. Like Lauren always has something going on, right? And it's because she's going to complete all the tasks as often as she can. Lauren's not going to listen to her body and give up most of the time. She's learning how to be better about that, right? But we had to take a good 6 months of backing off her workouts just to give her body some time to recuperate and to recover. And now we're finally at a time where we can start pushing those weights again. But I had to make sure that she was strong and balanced first. Now, me, I'm a little bit more of the opposite, right? Like, I am not going to put myself in a compromising position just to get a task done because I value my health over the task most of the time. Now, there are some exceptions, right? Everybody's got exceptions. But for the most part, I'm pretty good about, you know what? I don't want to have back pain tonight just because I'm trying to get this task done. My self-preservation is pretty high compared to a lot of people because I have a chronic injury and I don't like to have a lot of pain in my life. It's not fun. So I try really hard not to have pain. Living pain-free is a blessing. If you currently live pain-free, I'm jealous of you. I'm jealous of you, man. Living pain-free is something that not everybody gets to have. And if you do have it, man, you're lucky. Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to Elevate Your Ride. We're so excited to continue helping you elevate your performance in the saddle. To keep bringing you quality content and information, we're asking you to help us. Tell your friends about us on our podcast, like and share a meaningful quote you saw on our social media, write us a review on Spotify or Facebook. You can also join our Facebook group and ask all your health and fitness questions, or maybe post a success story to motivate another amateur. Your engagement really helps us support and encourage the equestrian community. We're also inviting sponsors and supporters to help us build our show. As a sponsor, starting at just $150, you'll receive marketing on our podcast, website, and growing social media platforms for your business. It's the perfect way to connect with the equestrian community and showcase your brand to our dedicated listeners. And for our supporters, your $50 contribution gets you a shout out on our social media and website. Every bit of support really helps fuel the show and helps us inspire and motivate equestrians. So, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can scroll down to the show notes of this episode and look for the Become a Supporter or Become a Sponsor links and click on those to get some more information. Thank you for listening. We can't wait to continue expanding our platform and helping you elevate your ride.
Hey, Elevate Your Ride fans. Are you loving our show and looking for a way to show your support? Check out our line of Elevate Your Ride merchandise. From stylish t shirts to cozy hoodies to journals and hats, we have everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Ready to gear up? Click on the Buy Our Merchandise Here link in the podcast notes, or head on over to our website, elevateyourride.co, and click on the Store tab. Thank you for your support. Make sure to like, follow, and share our platform with your friends.
All right, back to the book. Many athletes go about their business this way for decades, spending their genetic inheritance, getting their daily workout done without pain, until one day it's game over. You can lift with a rounded back and sit in a chair in a slouched position until one day you can't. So, how do you keep from harming yourself? You need a set of leading indicators: observable, measurable, and repeatable diagnostic tools that enable you to predict potential problems before they manifest as recognizable disorders. The good news is we already possess this information. It's called training. Human movement, and by extension, the body's positions within those movements, is really just a combination of biomechanics and movement technique. By exposing people to a broad palette of movements and making them express body control through full, normal ranges of motion, we are able to express holes and inefficiencies in their motor control and mobility. This means that while you are training for a stronger set of legs or a bigger set of lungs, you are simultaneously thinking in terms of diagnostics. The deadlift is no longer just a matter of picking up something heavy from the floor. Rather, it becomes a dynamic question. Do you have the capacity to keep your spine efficiently braced and stable and express full posterior chain range of motion while picking up something and breathing hard in a stressful environment? We don't need to develop an entirely new set of correlate or diagnostic movements to understand what is happening when you lift something off the ground. We simply need to see and understand what's happening during the movement you are performing. That is, you have to understand why you are performing the movement and how to do it correctly. End quote. All right, so this is why if a client comes to me and says, picking up a saddle off the ground hurts my back, I don't have to actually watch them pick up a saddle off the ground to see why it hurts them. I just need to check their spine mobility and their spine strength through exercise. So if somebody says to me that it hurts them to pick something up off the ground, I don't need to watch them pick something up off the ground. I just need to say to them, okay, I want you to bend over like you're going to pick something up off the ground, something heavy like a saddle or a heavy box, right? Like I want them to pretend that they're going to do it. I don't actually have to watch them do it. And the second that they start to move, they don't even have to get all the way down to the ground before I know what's wrong, right? More often than not, they're going to have tight muscles that are prohibiting them from having a full range of motion, which causes them to have a rounded back. And if you pick something up with your back rounded, especially if it's something heavy and you do it often, you are going to screw up your back. I promise. Back pain is horrible. You do not want it. Okay. Another thing, let's say that it hurts somebody to tie a pair of shoes, right? To get down on the ground. All I need to do is watch them do a squat to know why they're having that pain. Because probably the same thing. They're probably lacking mobility or strength in a specific area that's prohibiting their body from moving correctly. Your body, when moved correctly, will not have pain. The only time that you have pain is if you're moving incorrectly or if you already have an injury. If you don't have either those two things, your body should be able to move through a full range of motion, doing anything that you want it to do within reason, right? Pain is not normal. It might be common, but it is not normal. I want you to move as pain-free throughout your daily life as possible. That's why I'm doing this whole series on becoming a supple leopard. I want you to understand functional fitness and why it's so important to work on injury prevention. It's so important. It is essential to being an athlete. It is essential to being a parent. It's essential to living life. When you have pain, it's not easy to live because it's all that you think about. And it's hard to be present in life's moments when you're focused on pain. We don't want pain. So I know this book is a lot, but keep following along with me. All right, so back to the book. What you have to remember is that human movement is complex and nuanced. Marrying the diagnostic process to the training process ensures that no stone will go unturned. However, you can't train every movement or every energy system that you may use in a single training session, nor do you need to assess and address every deficiency in a single day. It's a lifelong process of identifying problems, fixing them, and then exposing more holes in your athletic profile with more challenging stimuli. This is how we become better athletes. End quote. All right, so that's why you can't start training and then just stop training. If you start training and you build the perfect, most athletic, strong body in the entire world, and then one day you just stop, you'll probably maintain it for a month. By month 2, you might lose a little bit of your mobility, but you'll still be strong. By month 3, you've lost more mobility, you've lost your balance a little bit, you've lost strength. By month 6, you'll really start to notice a difference. Random things will start to hurt when you go to carry your laundry basket up the stairs, or picking up a box off the ground, or reaching up into your closet. Things like that will start to hurt. By month 12, your body is not even going to remember what it felt like to feel good. Your body is not going to be strong. It's not going to be balanced. It's not going to be mobile. You're going to have a lot of pain in your daily life because you're still probably going to be treating your body like it's strong, like it's stable, like it's balanced, like doing daily things isn't going to hurt it. And then before you know it, you're going to have a torn rotator cuff or a torn meniscus or a herniated disc because your expectations of your body are too high for what it can do. It doesn't matter how strong and how balanced and how controlled you are in your body if you don't maintain it and if you don't keep challenging it. So that's the other thing. Let's say that you become the best athlete in the world and then you keep doing your current routine for another year. That's great, but your body's not actually going to get better. Our bodies, believe it or not, adapt to exercise and adapt to the challenges that you give it so quickly that if you're not upping the intensity often, at least monthly, you're not doing your body much good. You're still doing something, which is better than nothing, but that's not optimal. We're talking about optimizing your training here. We're not talking about the bare minimum. We're talking here, this podcast, this book is about elevating your ride, optimizing your performance. That's why you're here. That's why you've been listening to me talk about this for the last 30 minutes. You're here to get better. So if you want to get better, you have to constantly challenge your mind, your body. Otherwise, you're going to be complacent. And horse people are not complacent people. We're not built that way. We're built to achieve things and achieve bigger goals than we ever could have imagined. That's why we're here. So treat yourself that way. All right, back to the book. Athletes are both greedy and smart. Greedy in that they will do whatever it takes to get better in the shortest amount of time possible, and smart in that they will repeat specific practices and interventions that improve their performance or take away their pain. Our goal isn't just to make the best athletes in the world. Our goal is to make the best athletes in the world better. If you chase performance first, you will get injury prevention in the bargain. If you obsess over the reasons behind poor positioning, you get better mechanical advantage, improved leverage, and more efficient force production, end quote. So slow progress is still progress towards your long term. That's something that is kind of being highlighted here. If you learn how to become obsessed with making your body as stable and as balanced and as controlled as you possibly can, which is what I've really been focusing on the last couple of years of my own fitness. You look at me and say, you can tell she works out, but she's not the leanest, or she's not the strongest, or this or that. All true. I am inherently not the strongest person in the gym at really any movement. I don't bicep curl 15 pounds regularly. Usually I'm with my tens. I usually don't squat more than 25, 30 pounds. I'm not loading up the bar trying to squat as heavy as I can. I'm not deadlifting heavy weight. I'm not hip thrusting heavy weight. I'm not running for more than a mile at a time. If you just look at my body from an outside perspective, I do not look like I'm a super, super fit, strong person. But what I am is I'm functional. I can do most things in my life without pain. Now, I'm a little different because I have a chronic injury, and so I'm inherently going to have pain in my daily life because of my injury. But the funny thing is, I rarely have back pain in the gym. Rarely. I have back pain every day, every single day of my life. But it's not usually in the gym. Where I get my pain from is putting my body in an incorrect position, usually like when I'm sleeping or if I'm doing something else in my daily life that maybe I didn't have quite as much control over. And so I didn't stabilize my back properly, and that's what caused me pain. But I don't have pain in the gym. So what I've done is I've created my body to have a lot of control, have a lot of stability, and have a lot of correctness. I don't really have any muscle imbalances anymore. I have a couple. My hips are still not as strong as I would like them to be, but part of that is how I'm built. So I'm naturally built with what's called an anterior pelvic tilt. It's just the posture of my hips and my pelvis. And so naturally, I'm always going to have a little bit weaker glutes and weaker ab muscles, just literally just because of my biomechanics. So that's something that I work against and I try to fix, and I'm constantly working on it. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. But my body is stable. My body rarely gets injured. Yes, I have my injury, but there was not much I can do about that. But I don't get random injuries. I don't have random pain. I don't randomly wake up with pain in my knee or pain in my shoulder or pain in my foot. I have built a body that is capable of doing the tasks that I ask it to do in my daily life and when I go to ride. And that's what I'm trying to build with my fitness and with my clients' fitness. So you might look at me and say, she's like, you could tell she works out, but am I the leanest? No. Am I the strongest? No. But am I balanced? Yes. Am I good at preventing injuries from myself? Yes. Like, that's what I care about. And that's what I want you to care about. All right. Hopefully, you followed along through that kind of longer episode. And I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, all linked in the podcast notes. We'll see you next time. The information provided by Elevate Your Ride is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical or professional advice. While we discuss health and fitness topics related to equestrians, the content provided through this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. The views expressed by the host and guests on Elevate Your Ride are their own and should not be taken as professional guidance. We strive to provide accurate and up to date information, but we cannot guarantee that the information will be applicable to every individual listener or that it reflects the most current research or guidelines. Before making any changes to your health and fitness routine, we strongly recommend consulting with a qualified professional who can provide personalized advice based on your individual needs and circumstances. Elevate Your Ride and its creators will not be liable for any direct, indirect, consequential, special, exemplary, or other damages arising from the use of information on this podcast. Thank you for listening to Elevate Your Ride. We are committed to providing high quality content and appreciate your trust in us as a source of information for your health and fitness journey.